Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Hardam Tripathi from Trip Law. Today, we want to discuss with you about what to expect at the U.S. Embassy in your home country with respect to your actual fiance visa case. So your K1 visa, your fiance visa case, we get a lot of clients who have been going to their embassy in their home country, and they basically have questions before that interview, like, what should I expect, Attorney Tripathi, before we go into this interview? Well, and what to bring actually too, right? So usually the way the process goes high level, and we'd be more than happy to speak with you about it in more detail once the consultation is scheduled, but usually you have that I-129F that needs to be filed with the USCIS, it gets approved, and then it goes over to ultimately the State Department, where you then have to file that DS-160, which is that non-immigrant visa petition with the US State Department at their National Visa Center. So once that's approved, within 30 days or so, you will then get an actual opportunity to create a portal and an account on the State Department website. You're going to make sure that you fill out that DS-160, and then you're also going to make sure you give them the proper financial documents to show that your U.S. citizen fiance that's in the actual United States can actually financially sponsor you if you don't meet certain thresholds. So depending on the embassy, the actual officer could say, hey, we need this I-134. So you have to also bring that affidavit of support with you to the actual embassy with the relevant evidence and evidentiary documents to prove to the government that you, as the U.S. citizen sponsoring the immigrant, can actually financially sponsor them to the best of your ability based on tax paperwork, W-2s, and the IRS paperwork that you get as a U.S. citizen. So once all that's done, the biggest question I get is, okay, now that the attorney has completed everything for us, we're ready to go to this embassy interview. And remember, you as the fiance, U.S. citizen fiance, and the actual immigrant will both be at that interview if that's what the embassy requires. But for you as the immigrant listening in, it's very important that you bring proper evidence and documents to the interview. So what are some of these documents that you need to bring in? Well, we here at Trip Law will make sure we get a whole case file for you and prep you before and send it to you so you have an opportunity to have everything you need to give to the actual officer. Now, it's just as important what not to give to an officer as well, especially if there's things in your background or history that could cause alarms. You cannot lie to the government. You have to be transparent. However, there's only going to be certain documents that the officer is really going to need at that interview. So what you need to do is bring that copy of that DS-160 to the interview along with the payment receipt and the confirmation notice. You're also going to have to bring that valid passport. That whole passport's going to actually show everything involving your travel history and your I-94. You're also going to want to bring your birth certificate. You're going to want to bring any death certificates or divorce certificates for prior spouses. You're also going to want to make sure you have that police certificate showing that you do have a clean record in your home country. You're also going to want to bring your medical exam documentation, which you will be scheduled to do prior to your interview. You will go to a U.S. Embassy approved doctor who will take care of your medical, make sure that you're healthy and fit to come to the United States, make sure all your shots have been taken and all of that. And all those documents will also be provided. Furthermore, that I-134 showing the financial affidavit of support, along with all the relevant evidence, the IRS paperwork and all that, will also be as equally important to bring. You also want to bring two 2x2 passport photos and evidence of your relationship to the U.S. citizen fiance. I'm talking to you, the immigrant, at the moment, but there's actually going to be questions asked of you regarding your relationship with that actual individual. So what you need to bring is a timeline of your relationship. What's going on with the relationship? When did you meet? When did you actually go on dates, and when did you get engaged? You're also going to want to create a folder with all of your official documents. And you're also going to want to show the support of the legitimacy of your relationship. So this could be travel itineraries of when you met to go overseas to meet that individual, photos of trips that you've taken together. You also want to make sure you have like phone bills and documents that actually prove that you two were in a bona fide relationship throughout this whole process. You're also going to want to make sure you have receipts of big events, pictures together, showing your bona fide relationship, any birth certificates of children you may have. All these things are important to show the length and legitimacy of your relationship, which we believe is very important to prove to those officers. You also need documents that support and show that you have financial stability in your relationship. So you're looking at joint bank statements, you're looking at rental agreements, mortgage agreements. If you've lived overseas together, copies of the lease or copies of the actual mortgage documents showing that you own that home, or any assets that you actually owned as a couple together. It's very important to show. And then you want to organize those documents according to the embassy's guidelines, and you want to make sure that you put the proper exhibits in the proper order, and then provide that to the officers at the interview. Now, finally, the next question is, now that we're at the interview, we have our documents, we know what to give the officer. What do I expect at the interview? Well, these interviews are usually pretty short. They usually already have all the documentation they need to make their determination on your case. So at this point, you're probably going to get about 3 to 5 questions, if not less. They just want to really know, how did you meet with that fiance? Or, where were your first dates at? They want to make sure the answers are matching up. And this gets very difficult for people because sometimes being apart from a long time, you tend to forget things like dates and things of that nature. But these are very important. You want to make sure you have these memorized. Both parties, the fiancés and the spouses fiancés are giving the proper information to the officer, and it's lining up, right? So all that's important. And then they're going to ask maybe like, how did you get engaged? Tell me where you got engaged. What was the engagement event like? They may ask how long you've been engaged and prove that through paperwork of the travel history and the actual invites you may have sent out for people to attend your engagement ceremony. And then they're also going to want to ask questions about when you get here to the United States, do you actually have that intent to adjust status within that 90-day time period, just to make sure that you're actually using this fiancé visa in a way that's actually supposed to be used according to the laws, the immigration laws in this country. So at that point, you should also prove, to be safe, where you intend to live and what's going to be the address. You want to show text messages and pictures and things that will really beef up your case, affidavits of support. All these things are very important. So ladies and gentlemen, today we discussed kind of what to expect at the embassy, what kind of questions will I get, what to bring to the actual interview, and what all is entailed with respect to those evidentiary documents that you need to provide to the government or at that embassy interview. So we hope you found this helpful. And if you have any questions, and if you're a fiancé immigrant who is now in an engagement with a U.S. citizen who is petitioning for you, you really want to make sure you meet with an attorney, because you want to make sure your I-134 financial documents are there. You want to make sure all these relevant evidence is there so that you have a better go at the interview. So if you have any questions, let us know. We'd be happy to work with you. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Hardam Tripathi from Trip Law, and we wish you the best of luck with your fiancé visa interview. Have a great day.